Have you wanted to make one of these beautiful Ruanas and even make armholes in it? Well, Lion Brand has this free spirit topper out of Scarfy yarn, and it's just like a Ruana top, but it also has armholes. And today we're going to make it for the loom knitters. This is a popular needle pattern, and today we're going to convert it for you. Stay tuned and we'll make it together. Welcome to Good Knit Kisses. We're all about helping you stitch your love and love your stitches. Today's pattern is brought to you by Lion Brand Yarns and Good Knit Kisses. I've converted a fantastic needle pattern that's very popular from Lion Brand into the loom for you today. So if you've ever wanted to loom knit, or you already know how and really been wanting to make this, you are going to be excited today. We're going to be making the free spirit topper, and the yarn really does the color changing work for you. It looks beautiful, and it's 2 panels stitched together in the back for that classic Ruana style design. And then they've also got some armholes in here with a little slit on the side so you can customize it for yourself. Be sure and click on the link in the description below to get the pattern. Go ahead and print that off or have it nearby, and let's jump in to making this today. In today's tutorial, we'll be using a bulky number 5 weight yarn from Lion Brand Yarns, Scarfy, in color Mint Silver. You'll need 4 balls of yarn. Let's get started. All right, our loom that we need is a 62 peg blue Nifty Knitter loom or Knit UK loom. I'm only going to use 53 stitches. You can work with the original 59 from the converted pattern, but I'm going to go to 53. So you're going to need a couple of stitch markers, and I'm marking the first peg and the last peg just so we go ahead and have that on here. And then you're going to want a couple of lockable stitch markers. Just set them aside because those will be used later. And of course you have your loom tool. The important thing to know is we need to work with our yarn first and get this beginning start of the right color so that it gradates and changes as we go. So I've got a couple of balls here, and I'm going to show you, see how this one over here has on the outside a little bit more of the gray showing. I'm going to go with the main color I want to show first, which is this green. And so I'm going to pull off the ball band. Just set that aside, and I'm going to go through here and find where the start is. And you see all this extra yarn here? All right, so see how it's gray? And I'm going to be setting aside most all of this and start with the most solid color of the green. Okay, so I want to get the part that has the most green on it, but not completely solid. So if you look at this, it's got a little bit of a hazy of a gray on it. It may be harder to see, but as I pull through here, you'll notice that it becomes darker and darker, and you could probably see that coming through now. Now, in front of you is going to be most critical. I'm going to go to where it's just a tiny bit of the gray showing, and then kind of mark where that starts becoming less and less. Okay, so I've got it marked about here. Now I'm just going to kind of pinch and hold this and measure like an arm's length, about 36 inches. And I want to start kind of halfway at that point here. So this is where I'm actually going to start my, my slip knot. I'm going to take my scissors, and we're going to start with our slip knot here. And then by the time we get our cast on, it's going to be a nice solid color. All right, let's begin on the cast on. To make the true cable cast on, begin with a slip knot and place it on the first stitch. And make sure to get that nice and tight in there. Pull our tail through. And then with the working yarn, you're going to move it in between the stitches that you want to go toward. So we're going to go between the first and the second stitch and come around to the top. And we're going to go up through that bottom loop and pull downward and make a new loop. And when we make that loop, we're going to pick it up and flip it and place it on the next stitch. And then move that working yarn between and get it nice and tight there. And this will imitate a needle cast on for a cable. I like it for this particular pattern. So we're going to go around the back of that second stitch and go into the front, and we're going to pull downward and do exact same thing. Make a loop, pick it up, flip it, pull it tight, and get that yarn to the back. Continue doing that until you get to your last stitch. You're going to cast on 53. Pause your video and I'll see you soon. Now that you cast on, we're going to work in a seed stitch pattern. This is row 1, so all the odd rows will be the same. We'll be working right to left. We're going to work knit, purl, all the way to the end. We'll have 1 stitch left, and this last one will be knit. I'm going to work in the U-wrap knit stitch. I'm going to go around the back of peg 1, and we're going to lift up and over for that first stitch. The next one is going to be purl, so we're going to put the working yarn down below peg 2, and scoop up a loop like this, take off the old loop and put the new one on, and you can do this loosely, it doesn't have to be tight. And then we're going to put the yarn above the next loop and go around the back, which makes a U. This right here is that U, and lift up and over. Okay, so that is the stitch. We're going to work in that pattern and then purl next. So knit, purl all the way across. The last one at the end will be knit. On row 2, on the way back, you're just going to be working purl, knit all the way to the end, and then your last stitch will be purl. All right, I've worked the last stitch of row 1, and I'm going to work on row 2. So from left to right is always going to start with the purl stitch here. So we're going to put that yarn underneath that first stitch, lift up, lift the old one off, put the new one on, and then work that U-knit stitch on the next stitch. So the last one in all your even rows is going to be purl. You'll finish up with that. So you're going to work these stitches back and forth. When you get to the beginning of row 1, you'll know that you've done 2 rows. We want to work 36 rows for this, or 4 inches. It will be very stretched out and it'll be hard to measure, and you might think you only have 2 inches or 3 inches, but you may want to put some scrap yarn on here as a provisional bind off, kind of like this. You'll want to put some scrap yarn on and take it off, and then you can make sure your stitches are all stretched how they would normally be, and then measure your work. So 36 stitches, or 36 rows is what I would do. Go ahead with that and pause your video. I'll meet you back up when we're ready for the next section. All right, so we are ready to begin with our seed stitch borders. You're going to move in the outside stitch markers into the 8th stitch. So I'm going to move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and lift that off. And then we're going to take this one off. Okay, and then now you're going to work the first 8 stitches, the same seed stitch, and then you'll work in a U-wrap stitch like that all the way around until the last 8 stitches. So I've already moved the marker inward. Now on a row 1, you work all the way down here, and when you get to that first stitch marker, you actually start your seed stitch on a purl stitch and then work all the way to the end. And then when you begin, you'll start on a purl stitch and work all the way down. And when you get to this first marker here, you will start by knitting this first stitch. And then that way, all of the seed stitch will line up the way that you've been doing it before. So again, start this row 1 with a knit stitch and then a purl, and repeat. And then on this stitch, that's the last stitch of your seed stitch, and everything in between this marker and this marker is all stockinette, so it'll all be U-wrap stitch. Okay, so work on rows 1 and 2 repeated until you have reached 31 inches, and we'll meet back up for that point. See you soon. All right, let's take a knitting break, and we're going to do a provisional bind off. I want to show you how to actually do this. It is used to hold your stitches temporarily, but also can be used for accurate measuring. So I'm just going to take a scrap piece of yarn, contrasting color, smooth yarn, and use my loom tool and just pull it right through these stitches. Now you can also use a wide-eyed tapestry needle, that's okay too. I'm just doing the ones on the end here, and I'm going about 8 stitches in. You can go more if you need, but this is very stretched out. This stockinette stitch in here is much wider on here than it is down here, but also the rows are very very stacked together, and they need to be stretched out a bit to get a real accurate measurement. So if you notice up here, it's wider, it's more stretched out, and down here, it's the tension is eased, and this is really what it's going to look like. So all you do is you put your stitches through here, and then you just start taking them off of the loom. There's no worry about them dropping and you have to fix them or anything. So once you do that and you pull your stitches off, then you can take it out and you can kind of stretch out your work. You can even put it through more of them. Stretch this down a little bit to get it closer to where it's supposed to be, and then you can accurately measure your work. So when you get to the desired length, you're ready to put it back on the loom, and we just come back up here and we take our holder that we're using, and this one I've already got on here, and I'm just going to kind of pull this one through and make little bunny ears like this for my fingers, and then I just pull it right onto the loom. I usually put my finger at the back, and it helps me get that stitch through. And then I just pull through and do the next one. Okay, so after you measure your project, pause your video, and I'll meet you back for the next section. For this one, we need 31 inches. See you soon. We've come to 31 inches, and we need to start our row 1, or an odd row, and I need to cast on before we get started. And what this is going to do is it's going to give us an extra stitch here to seam against when I have, this is my left half here and you're working on your right half right now, but I just want you to see how this increase is going to look. And as you see, I have a stitch marker in here, so we'll be putting a stitch marker on after, but I want to show you how you can also mark this so that you can make sure your panels have the same amount of rows and you can count them. I put in a scrap piece of yarn here, and I'll show you where I'm putting it on here. You can use a scrap piece of yarn, or you can use a locking stitch marker. So I'm just going to go in between one of these stitches over here, and this is just a bar between them, and I'll just place my stitch marker on and lock that up, and then it's just going to drop down in my loom here and then rest. And so I can pull this out later and it will show me where that is, because I'm going to show you in the next segment how to cast on for the left panel. So you're going to want to pay attention and come back to this later. All right, let's make our increase, and we're going to do as we did before with the true cable cast on. We're going around the back of this last stitch and just go through with our loom hook and pull through a new loop, flip it and place it, and then pull that yarn to the back, and we have increased. Now it'll be on the other end for the left side panel. Now we're going to start working on our row 1, or odd row, but in this case we're going to start with a purl stitch. So you're going to have to kind of change your frame of mind on this. It starts with a purl because that second stitch is going to be knit just as we had done it before. So the position of the pegs is still going to be the same. This is still going to be a knit stitch here. It's just that we're adding on because we want to continue in the same patterning. So you're going to continue. This is purl knit all the way down until your marker, and then do the stockinette just as before and end just as before. You're going to continue working on this for the right panel until you reach 50 inches. All right, pause your video and come back. And when you see me come back, if you're working on the right side panel, you can skip the left side increase section and you'll have to come back to it later. And I will meet you back at the right side panel when you are ready for the last seed stitch border at 50 inches. See you soon. All right, we want to do a true cable cast on in the opposite direction. This is the left half, and you will have worked all the way to the end of that row, and now you're adding on. So if you have been counting from your right side panel stitches, you're going to see where that original that stitch marker was if you're counting up how many rows you need. So now we're going to put our yarn between the last peg and the one we're going to go to. Put the yarn up top as we do before, go up through the bottom of that stitch here, pull downward, all right, and then we're just going to flip it. So I'm going to move my yarn back here, out of the way, flip it, and then pull on that, all right. You don't want to make it too loose here. It doesn't need to be super loose. You're going to have a nice firm edge anyway. So now we're ready to begin, and normally we start this row with a purl, and you're going to have to change your frame of mindset here again because you're going to be knitting this stitch instead. So we're going to knit one, and then this first, actually the second stitch now is going to be purl. So it's just as it was before, it just is set up a little different. So when you're on the other end, though, you'll be doing it as you normally did. You'll still start off that other row, all the odd rows with a knit stitch. So just continue on until you get to your 50 inches, and I'll meet you back up for the finishing of the seed stitch border. See you soon. All right, we're coming to a stopping place where we need to switch out our yarn. Now on my panel, I've got this beautiful color changing yarn, and I'm ready to move on to what looks like to be the next part for the green to start coming back in. It's about right here. You can see it coming in the color. So it is really good to see this first cast on tail. This tail, the reason why I left it so long is so I can start matching it up to where it's going to come out of the new ball. One way to know where to stop your tail here is to come along and find where the more solid color starts. And now I'm going to line it up with this original tail here. So here's my original tail, and where I get this beginning yarn. All right, so this is where we want the yarn to start being more solid. So I'm going to pull it in until it closely resembles that, okay? And that is getting closer and getting closer. And when we finally get to where it looks the same or similar, let's pull it back. So it's about right here. Okay, so it's about right here. And then I want to make a tail that looks as long as this one, and I'm going to pull it back about that long up to the front here. Okay, so this has got more of the solid color. So about right here is where I'm going to start adding the color in. So I'm going to put in a loose knot here. Okay, so this is where it's going to add the color in. So I've marked it. Okay, and now I can go ahead and clip this off, and I can get rid of the ball that I was using. And now I want to go find the beginning of this other ball. So we're going to take off this ball band and look at the outside here and start finding our way to match this. So you're going to do the same exact thing and mark your spot, and when we come back, we'll add it in. See you soon. Once you've knit up to that part where the loose knot was, undo your knot and go ahead and knit it in there, and then we're going to set in our next stitch, and we just go ahead and work that, and you can continue on. So you'll just weave in these tails afterward, and you can also put in just a loose, not a loose knot, but just kind of tie this part loosely and know that that's where you'll undo it and weave in your tails later with a tapestry needle. All right, continue on in your project until you reach 50 inches and use the provisional bind off to help you measure that, and I'll meet you back up for the seed stitch. See you soon. I have just put this back on the loom where I had taken my provisional bind off, and I could measure all the way to the beginning edge 50 inches, and you can also take off this stitch marker here and the one at the end. And once you get those off, you can begin your seed stitch, and you just will be making this seed stitch in the middle here as well. Just remember, on the right side panel that we're working now, you've got an extra stitch cast on, so you're going to accommodate for that. And when you do the left side panel, you're going to have the extra stitch at the back here instead. All right, go ahead and work the same amount of rows you did on the beginning here. You're working 4 more inches. And I made note, or you can recount them, and I'm going to make sure I do the same amount of rows. Mine, I got 36. All right, so I'll meet you back up at the end of your 4 inches. See you soon. So we're ready to bind off, which is taking it off of the loom, of course, and we're going to work it in pattern. Binding off in pattern means whatever the next stitch is that you're supposed to be doing if you continue down the row, that's what you're going to work first. So in this case, for my right side panel, I'm going to start with the purl stitch. So bring my yarn around just as I would to normally start this row. And so I work the first stitch and then I work the second stitch. So the second stitch in this case is the knit. Then I'm going to take the second stitch and move it on to the first and lift it up and over to bind that off. And then I'm going to move it down, and now this becomes my first stitch again. The next thing I do is use the next pattern that happens, which is a purl stitch. So I would normally purl on this stitch, and so I'm just going to do that, and then I move it over to that first stitch and I lift up and over. And if you see, I'm keeping it kind of loose, and I'm not pulling it like super tight like this. I'm letting it kind of hang back behind this peg here. So when I lift up and over and then I move this, I'm not continuing to tighten here because I want it to be nice and loose. It doesn't need to be too tight. If it's too tight, then it'll draw in your panel. So that's all you do. You continue doing that in pattern. If you do a basic bind off with it's just all knit stitches, then it won't flow as nicely. If you're working on the left side panel, all you do is the opposite. You don't have this extra stitch on the front here, so you actually start with a knit stitch first. When you get to the end, just pull that last stitch on through, and I'll show you ending on that in just a moment. So I'll see you soon for that last stitch. For the last stitch, we just work that and move it over as usual and lift the bottom up and over. And now this one, we'll just go ahead and cut our tail, and then just pull it on through. So pull that tail on through and pull it off the loom, and you're ready. So now you can just, I'm going to lightly steam block this and get ready to seam it together. So you're going to go ahead and make your second panel and weave in all your ends. Then go ahead and you can block it out a little bit if needed, and we will sew it up together. So you're going to need a wide-eyed tapestry needle and a little extra yarn. See you soon. We're going to start seaming this together, and this is what it looks like with both panels running lengthwise here. Your bound off edge is down here, and your cast on edge is down here. So where the cast on edge is, that's going to be your fronts. This will be the right side because this is how your body would be facing. The person is facing out this way. So this is the right half of the body, and this is the left half of the body. And then this is going to be open here. And then right where this is, it's going to be where the seam starts in the back and goes all the way to the bound off or cast off edge. So this is where those markers are. Just sew this part. But if you want to make the armholes, so I'll show you how to do that in a moment. Let's go ahead and sew this part right now. Okay, so I'm just going to use a little bit lighter yarn so you can see it. I'm going to do it in a very easy kind of way. The markers are just going to show you where you can start. You don't have to put a stitch in that hole just yet, and I'm going to leave the tail sticking out so that can be fixed later. So I'm going to come up through this hole here. I've got about 2.5 yards of yarn here. All right, so I'm coming up through the hole, and I can sew in this tail later, but I want to just show you how I'm going to come in through here. So I'm going to go up through this little purl bump here. Okay, and then I'm going to zigzag to the left and go to the first purl bump above where this marker is. So I see this purl bump right here. And pull all my yarn through, and I'm going to go zigzag to the right side again and find my next purl bump and go through, and then zig to the left and go through the next purl bump. Now you can seam it how you like. This is just how I'm doing it for this particular pattern. And we'll do one more and I'll show you the magic in this. So go through this purl bump and then this set on this side. So you see it has this sort of lacing up. Okay, and now what I do is I'm going to pull on this, and you can see how it just kind of disappears inside. And if I work with a yarn that is matching this, then it's going to fade away. You can use the darker yarn here and then start using the lighter yarn up here, and then your extra tails, just weave those in, and you'll have a nice seam right up here. And then when you're done, you can take off your stitch markers here. All right, I've been using the same yarn, and even though it is a slightly lighter color, it's not noticeable. It really isn't. So I just want to show you kind of coming to the end. Make sure that you're pulling on this. So make sure that this isn't squished in. It's not, you're not pulling too tight. So make sure these are even. And then as you get down to the end, if it's a little bit too long on one side than another, you could go through 2 of the bumps at the same time and then go over to the one over here. So just if I need to make this one a little bit shorter, then I could go through these 2 first and then zigzag over to this other side. And so this is what I'm doing. And so mine are pretty even. So I'll just keep going down to the end and do the tail over there and weave in that tail. And then we will go over to the armholes. And just wanted to show you the finishing up on this one and those extra tips. See you in a moment. All right, now we've got this part sewn. You're going to fold it in half, and this is if you're going to make the topper with the armholes. So from the part where it's folded in half, you're going to measure right here down on each side, measure to 9 inches. Okay, so that 9 inches, you're going to place like a little stitch marker or something, and then you're going to, and you can actually place it through the 2 stitches, 9 inches down from here, 9 inches down from here, and it's folded in half. And then from the bottom, this cast on edge and the bind off edge, both of them, you're going to measure up 8. So you're only actually sewing together this portion right here. So on this side, you're sewing together this portion, which is actually sewing this at the same time. And on this side, you're sewing this one. So you're only doing 2 things. So I'll show you over here. I just placed this together and folded it in half and actually marked where that halfway point was. And then I measured up 8 inches. And then I measured down here 9 inches. And actually on mine, I gave it another 1 inch allowance, and you can use a top of your own or something to see how big you want your armholes to be made. And you can make this area a little bit more generous. So you're going to do the same thing that you did before. Once you've marked these, you can go ahead and put your needle through the 2 stitches to kind of mark it, and you can lay them out side by side just as we did that last one, and start sewing in the way you did before. Start picking up those bumps, leave a nice little tail, and then come on the other side and pick up that outward bump, and then continue working on through, and then weave in your tails when you're done, and repeat on the other side. And I'll see you soon, and we'll look at the final result. Well, what did you think? Please be sure and comment down below and tag us on social media with a picture of your Free Spirit topper. We'd love to see it. Thanks for joining us today, where we help you stitch your love and love your stitches. See you again soon.